You're listening to the Rise Above podcast, the only podcast on the planet with a mission to help you live a free and uncommon life. Here's your host, Greg Smith.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I am so glad that you decided to join me today. This is the Rise Above podcast, and you are listening to episode number 4. I'm your host, Greg Smith, and I believe if you desire uncommon freedom in business and in life, then it starts with creating a champion's mindset from within. And today we're going to talk about how to develop that champion's mindset. And I'm going to give you 3 tips to overcome struggle or to help you make a change in your life. You know, there's so many out there that are looking to make a change or that are struggling. And I know myself, I'll tell you, there's different times where I may be struggling with something and, or I'm looking to make a change and I need some direction or guidance to get there. And one of those times was about 12 years ago. I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life at that time. And I was really struggling with the fact that I was out of school. I was all alone in terms of being a man. I wasn't really surrounded by a bunch of other men because I came from, that individual team sport that we talked about last week, which, by the way, got some people razzed up, but a lot of people really loved it and they related to it. And so for me, that sport was wrestling. And so I was struggling as a young man, knowing what I wanted to do with my life, what direction I was going to take it. And I was starting to fall into the default pattern that many of us do, where you just get a good job, you lock in that secure income, you get 401k, you get benefits, and you have good health insurance and all that jazz. And I knew even as I was creeping down that road and I was starting to like the thought of security, at the same time, I was struggling because my inner self wanted to break free. I wanted to unleash the chains, and I really wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to break that 9-to-5 cycle. And that's just me. Some people may love 9 to 5. You may love a 9 to 5. And I'll tell you, one of the things that is envious of somebody who has a 9 to 5 is you get to go to work, you punch in and you punch out. And when you punch out, you get to leave work if you have a job that allows you to do this. And hopefully you do if you have a 9 to 5, where you can leave work at work. And that is a great thing, where every night you can just shut it off. And then every weekend you can just shut it off. But as an entrepreneur, if you're listening to this, you know very well that we just never shut off. I mean, that's the way that we are wired, is we're just always thinking about how can we become better? How can we serve more people? And ultimately, how can we be more, do more, so we can have more and share more with other people? And so today's tips really are about somebody who may be struggling like I was with the paradigm of, those thoughts that was, I'm not worthy of being successful in business. People from our town don't, do these kinds of things, or, if it's not a 9 to 5, then, I can't believe you didn't go to college. And even had a best friend tell me that, but not a best friend anymore by any means, but, at the time told me I was always going to amount to a pizza boy. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a pizza boy, but it's not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so that kept ringing true in my head too. And so I had this just yearning in my soul to make a change, but I didn't know how. And so one of the first things that I did, my very first tip is this: I started reading books by dead people. And I encourage you to start reading books of dead people. And what that will do, and here's why. Very specifically, let me be very specific. Successful dead people, all right? We don't want to read about somebody who had just a total horrible life, but they wrote a book about themselves. You want to read about, people like Benjamin Franklin. That's one of the best autobiographies that I've read, and my goodness, it's like 400 or 500 pages. It's huge, but I'm looking at it right now. But the thing is through that, I get to learn. And by the way, Benjamin Franklin accomplished so much in life. And so, he was a womanizer, had his issues, but don't we all? But at the end of the day, he achieved a lot. Highly successful man. And so reading a book by him, that was written by him specifically, helps you start to think and really act and be like him. So one of my tips down the line is going to talk about this, but this one in particularly is the very first way that you can start to get mentorship remotely. You can get remote mentorship through books, through trainings. Now, nowadays you're getting that, right now as I'm talking to you is, you're learning the way that I think and so forth. But, study people that are highly more successful than myself. And so somebody might be Benjamin Franklin or, whomever else you might want to read about. But presidents are a great place to start because presidents have achieved a lot, specifically the ones, 200 years ago. And so through their autobiographies, you can start to read and you can start to think and act and be like them through osmosis, through reading their actual words that they wrote on paper. You can also read many other things, like Napoleon Hill doesn't necessarily have an autobiography, but the book Think and Grow Rich, really many entrepreneurs, I have not met an entrepreneur that has not read that book that is successful. And so Think and Grow Rich is kind of one of those things too. That's an all-time classic. Another book that may get overlooked is Proverbs. If you're a Christian or not, there's no denying historically that King Solomon was the wealthiest man on the earth. The wealthiest man on the earth. I mean, there are secular things that show that this man lived and he documented through Proverbs, essentially his thoughts on life, from everything from money to relationships and how to deal with people, and all types of things are written in there. Wallace D. Wattles has a few great books, but one of them in particular is The Science of Getting Rich. Benjamin Franklin actually has one. It's called like The 3 Ways to Wealth, and that's a really interesting read too. So, anyways, here's what I'm saying: go out and get some books. Invest into your mind, and the way that you can start to shape your mind is by reading somebody else's mind on paper, and you will start to act and think and maybe be like them. And so that's the very first thing that I would tell you. Tip number 1, if you're looking to make a change, go get a book today. And if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, you should probably go read Think and Grow Rich, because that book alone has changed thousands and thousands and thousands of entrepreneurs worldwide, literally worldwide. This book's been around for a long time. So the next tip that I would tell you is to surround yourself with giants. Surround yourself with giants. And I'm talking about people that just are larger than life, people that are either already living a life that you want to live or people that are going in that direction. Okay? Surround yourself with people who are going the same direction as you in life, or the same direction that you would like to go. Or maybe they've already achieved the kind of success that you want to live, or the kind of success that you desire. Those are the people that you need to hang around. And I'll tell you, many of my friends who were my friends before I was an entrepreneur, or before I became, quote unquote successful, whatever we're going to talk about this in a future podcast about what is success. But, before I was who I am today and have the businesses that I have today, quote unquote, I'm air quoting, quote unquote success, the same friends that I had then are not the same friends that I have now. And that's because sometimes when you start being, so sometimes when you start becoming the right kind of person, the wrong kind of people will find you unbearable. And it's an unfortunate thing for them, not for you. Because what happens is you start to learn who are the giants that you should be surrounding yourself with. Who are the people that are going to be that team, like we talked about on the last episode, right? Life is an individual sport, but you can choose to turn it into an individual team sport. And so who are the giants that you're going to surround yourself by and with that are ultimately going to cheer for you? They can't do it for you, but they're going to cheer for you and they're going to raise you up. And as a collective whole, you guys can think different. There's many different ways you can do this, but I'll tell you, the business that I do is just phenomenal in this because I have truly one of the things that I cherish and one of my intentions in life is to have deep and loving relationships. And I have found the deepest and the best relationships through this industry, through being an entrepreneur, and through locking arms with other people who want the same things that I want out of life. And that's the power of surrounding yourself with giants.
Are you someone who wants to live life on your own terms? Do you dream of having more time to spend doing the things you love? Then download your copy of The Freedom Formula absolutely free at www.riseabovepodcast.com. What are you waiting for? Go to www.riseabovepodcast.com to get your free copy of The Freedom Formula.
Giants, and I call them giants because I want to be surrounded by giants. I want to be surrounded by people that just lift me up every day. Lift me up every day. I don't want to be around people who are vampires, who suck the life out of me, and they literally just attach to you and, they just tear you down, or they're just always complaining, or just, and they have these things like we talked about, like, oh, I'm just living the dreams. Like, well, are you really living the dream, or are you living somebody else's dream? Like, I don't want to be surrounded by those people. I want to be surrounded by people who are going somewhere in life and who are really helping a whole heck of a lot of people at the same time. That's who I want to be surrounded by. Now, my last tip, last but truly, it is not least, is this. Become a blood-sucking parasite. A blood-sucking parasite to a mentor. Attach yourself to a mentor. Now, there's really two ways that you can have a mentor. You can either pay a high amount of money to purchase a mentor. Okay. So, I've done this for people who don't want to do this the second way that I'm going to share with you, where they'll pay me and I'll mentor them and we'll do 90-day sprints at a time. And I'm going to help them achieve whatever it is that they're looking to achieve. And they get an outside perspective. They get somebody who, has maybe been successful in whatever it is that they're doing, and I'll help them out. So you can pay physical money to get a mentor, or the way that I like and the way that, I teach, and really the way that I was brought up as being an entrepreneur is I earned the favor of somebody. I earned the favor of somebody. And the way that I did that was, specifically through the business models that I'm a part of, that mentor has a vested interest in your success. And I think that makes a major difference, because I know myself, you could pay me to consult with you. Many people do. And you could pay me to mentor you for 90-day sprints at a time, and many people do. But, and I will give you my heart and soul, but at the end of the day, there's something just a little bit different when I'm truly vested into your success. Truly vested into your success. And that is the greatest thing, is when you can truly be vested in, are you helping somebody be successful or not? And so as a mentor, and as you're looking for one, if you need one, you're looking for somebody who is really vested in you being successful. Like, they want to see you be successful. And ideally, they have a financial reward that is attached to that, to where they only win if you win. Okay, so hear me on that. They only win if you win financially. And so instead of paying somebody $5,000, $10,000, $25,000 up front for them to mentor you, you have it set up a different way, where if you achieve your goals, and if you guys maybe go into business together or link up and do something that makes sense, where now you're vested, now that mentor is vested in you, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that you're successful. That's the best option. Okay. That is the best option. And, there's a couple of people that I have that are mentors in my life who I've gained their favor because I have value that I can provide back to them. And that's another way that you can also gain favor is maybe thinking, how could I serve that person? How could I make their life easier? What could I do for them to where ultimately I can be around them and I can start to learn through osmosis? I can start to learn through being around them. What is it that I could do for them? One thing I was exceptionally good at, 10 years ago before making websites became a lot more simple as it is today, is I could create websites. I'm still very good with technology for the most part. For all of the giants that I hang around, I'm the tech guy. And so one of the ways that I really served one of my first mentors was by building websites for him. And that was kind of the deal. That's like what got me in. I could build websites and, I would do that. And that was kind of the piece that I played. And so that gained me a little bit extra of favor. And so, what is it that you might be able to do? And how might you be able to serve that person to where in return they're going to want to mentor you and breathe life into you and coach you and train you along the way? Another way that you can start being a blood-sucking parasite, and I did this really goes back to number one, which was read books written by dead people. Well, that's really just, start immersing yourself with the way that successful people think. That's really the key. Start immersing yourself with the way that successful people think. And so reading books by dead people that's specifically successful, that was written by them, I think is a great way to do that. Now, another way that you can do that, and I did this in 2008, is I jammed to Tony Robbins CDs. I jammed to them all the time. There's another gentleman named Jim Rohn who has since passed, but Jim has so many different trainings out there. Jim was Tony Robbins' mentor previously. So success begets success, I guess. But, Jim Rohn, there's one particular CD that I've listened to literally at least, it's an hour long, at least 100 times, if not 500 times, not kidding, over the last 10 years. And that CD has changed my life because I think differently and I have different philosophy now based upon that. And so through immersion, you can also start to tap into a mentor through their books, through their audios, through their podcasts, through blogs or their videos. But the key is to start consuming their teachings and start consuming their thoughts. And if you can gain their favor along the way and start to get direct mentorship, that's the best case scenario. But, through all of this, through, tip number one, reading books by dead people, you will start to, through osmosis, think the way that successful people think or the way that they thought by surrounding yourself with giants and other people that are out there, right? Maybe you become a part of a club, like different clubs that I'm a part of or that I run, where you're surrounded by other people who are successful, or you're surrounded by other people who are what I call giants, right? That's tip number two. And that's the next step through immersion. And then number three is really to become that blood-sucking parasite to somebody either directly, which is best case scenario, or if you have to do it from afar, you start listening to their CDs, you start learning through their books, you start watching videos or podcasts, you start consuming and teaching, or you start consuming their teachings and their thoughts, okay? And through all of this, that is what will make you become more. So ultimately you will do more and then you will have more, because the being comes before the having. And what gets America specifically into trouble is far too often we want to have before we are. And that's called, credit cards. And we put stuff out there that we really haven't yet earned, but we're going to earn it in the future, but we're not there yet. Well, I want to challenge you to start becoming before you start having. And next episode is really going to hit on that. I'm going to talk about why I believe 401ks are dead and cash flow is king. And I'm going to tell you how to live an uncommon life with that philosophy. And so if you got value out today, and this episode in particular, I would love to know it. You can head over and give me a review. And most importantly, I'm not looking for the 4 or 5 stars that you might give me. I'm looking for feedback. I want to see a comment. I want to see, Greg, I really loved you saying this. I'm going to start hanging out with giants, or whatever it is that you took out of this particular episode. I would love to know what that is. Until next time, take care. God bless.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.